Hey everyone, and welcome to our deep dive. We're going to be taking a look at KOEIGO's STEAM and Language School's 3D design course at the Kadena Youth Center.
Hmm.
If you're a parent and you've ever thought, I wonder what my kid is actually doing in there, well, you're in the right place.
It's more than just making cool models. It helps them learn problem solving and how to be creative and, just to really bring their imaginations to life.
I love that.
Yeah.
So what are they working on this week over at the Youth Center?
Well, last week they designed articulating dragons in Nomad Sculpt. I mean, can you believe that?
Articulating.
Yeah, articulating dragons.
Yeah, it was amazing. And this week, they're making 3D mushrooms in Nomad Sculpt.
Okay, so how does making a mushroom teach them the core concepts of 3D modeling?
Well, it all starts with the very basics. They use simple shapes like cylinders and spheres to start building. Like the stem of the mushroom is a cylinder and the cap is a sphere. Pretty simple, right?
I see.
But then they get to learn how to use Nomad Sculpt's tools to manipulate those shapes. So they're learning to change the shapes instead of just putting pre-made shapes together.
That's right. They learn how to scale the objects, which means making them bigger or smaller. And they learn how to move them around in 3D space. And even how to use symmetry to make perfectly balanced forms.
Ah, symmetry. Now that reminds me of cutting paper snowflakes. You know how you fold the paper to get those mirror images?
Exactly. It's a really important design concept, whether you're making a snowflake or, a butterfly, or even a human face. And Nomad Sculpt lets them mirror what they're doing on one side of the mushroom to the other. And it instantly makes a balanced and symmetrical shape.
So they're starting with these simple shapes and then changing them and using symmetry to make the mushroom. What's next?
Now, this is where the fun part comes in, adding details. And this is where it gets really cool. So we were just talking about the students making these 3D mushrooms and how they use scaling and symmetry to make them.
It's pretty amazing how they start with basic shapes and build up to something really complex, kind of like building with Legos. You start with simple pieces, but you can make some really intricate stuff.
Yeah, that's a really good comparison. And just like Legos, the real fun starts when you add the details and make it your own. And that's where Nomad Sculpt's radial tool comes in. That's how they make the mushroom skills.
Radial tool.
Hmm.
Okay, so I'm thinking of the spokes on a wheel. How does that make mushroom gills?
Imagine you're looking at the underside of the mushroom cap. The radial tool lets them make a bunch of identical shapes that all come out from the center point, like spokes on a wheel. So they use it to make all these thin vertical shapes all around the inside of the cap.
Oh, I get it. So it makes one shape over and over in a circle.
Exactly. And they can even change the position and size of the shapes to make the gills look more natural and organic.
So they're already using a bunch of different tools together. Scaling, moving, and now this radial tool. Are there any other techniques they're learning in this part?
Yeah, they also learn about voxel remishing. It sounds kind of complicated, but it's actually really simple. It basically smooths out and refines the model.
Like sanding down a piece of wood to make it smooth.
Exactly. When they're sculpting in Nomad Sculpt, it's like working with clay. They push and pull the digital material around, and that can make some uneven spots.
So voxel remeshing is kind of like digital sandpaper. It gets rid of all those bumps and makes it look nice and smooth.
Yeah, you got it. It helps to make it look cleaner and more polished. It's really useful after using tools like radial that can leave those uneven surfaces.
That makes sense. Now, in the source material, it said that the students left off this week by adding extra spheres to the mushroom cap. What's the point of doing that?
Well, this is where it gets really creative. The extra spheres are more than just decoration. They're a really important step in learning. Up until this point, they've been following instructions to make the basic shape of the mushroom.
So they're moving from following instructions to doing their own thing.
That's right. Adding the spheres lets them decide what size and shape they want and where they want to put them on the mushroom cap. It's like giving them a blank canvas and saying, okay, now it's your turn to be creative.
I love that. They're taking what they've learned and using it to show off their own ideas. It must be so cool to see their own creations come to life in 3D.
It really is, and it helps them to experiment and see what happens when they try different things. There's no right or wrong answer here, which is an important lesson in itself.
It sounds like they're starting to see how 3D design can be more than just copying things. It can be a way to express themselves artistically.
Exactly. And there's another tool they'll be learning about called crease. It lets them add even more detail, like lines and textures. Imagine them drawing these really delicate lines on the mushroom cap to make it look realistic, or adding grooves around the stem.
Crease. So it's like a little digital carving tool.
That's a great way to put it. And again, it gives them so much freedom to be creative. They can make intricate patterns or add little details or just have fun making marks. At this stage, it's all about exploring and seeing what they can do.
It sounds like they're learning how to be precise and in control, but also how to be playful and experimental.
You got it. It's that mix of technical skill and artistic expression that makes 3D design so fun and rewarding.
Listening to you describe all this makes me realize how much they're learning. It's not just about the software. They're developing spatial reasoning, problem-solving skills, and artistic vision. And they're having fun while they're doing it.
That's what makes it so great. They don't even realize how much they're learning because they're so focused on creating.
Yeah, and I bet some parents would be surprised at how much their kids can do.
I think so too. And it's not just about individual skills either. Think about all the collaboration and communication that's going on in the classroom.
You're right. They're probably sharing ideas and helping each other solve problems and getting inspired by what everyone else is making.
Exactly. It's a social learning experience as much as it is technical. It's really amazing to think about how this course could impact their futures.
It really is. And it all starts with something as simple as a mushroom. We've talked about a lot in this deep dive. We've gone from basic shapes to advanced tools, from technical details to artistic expression. I'm excited to see what else these young designers will be able to create. So we've been talking about all the amazing things these young designers are doing at the Kadena Youth Center. It's pretty inspiring stuff.
It really is. From those awesome articulating dragons to these mushrooms they're making now, they're learning some serious skills.
For sure. We talked about building the mushroom from basic shapes and using tools like radial to make the gills and even smoothing it out with voxel remeshing.
Oh, and don't forget about crease. That one's like giving them a virtual carving knife to add all those little details and textures.
Yeah, it's amazing how those tools can go from seeming technical to being a way for them to express themselves and make their ideas come to life.
That's what it's all about, right? It's not about mastering the software. It's about using it to be creative and solve problems.
Exactly. Now, we've talked about the technical stuff, but I want to bring it back to the parents listening. How can you use this deep dive to connect with your kids and help them learn?
That's a great question. Don't just ask them, how was class? Talk to them about what they did. Ask them about the tools they used and the challenges they faced and the choices they made while they were designing.
So instead of how was class, maybe ask, hey, show me how you used that radial tool to make the mushroom gills. Or what was the hardest part about adding those extra spheres to the cap?
That's the idea. That shows you're really interested, and it helps them to explain what they're thinking. You might be surprised by how much they know and what they've figured out.
Yeah, it becomes a learning experience for both of you. A chance to be a student with your kid. That's a great way to bond with them.
Definitely. And who knows, you might even find out you're pretty good at 3D design yourself.
You never know. Now, before we go, I want to leave you with something to think about. This mushroom project is a great foundation. But imagine what they could do if they started designing things from their own lives, like your favorite toy, or a character from a book they love, or even their dream house.
That's a great point. It's all about using these skills to explore what they're passionate about.
So to all the parents out there, I want to encourage you to explore this world with your kids. Ask questions, try out the software together, and see what they come up with. You might be amazed by what you both discover.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into 3D design. We hope you learned something new and that you're excited about the amazing things your kids are learning. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep creating